What's going on, guys? It's RGT85, and there's a whole bunch of stuff happening in the world of video games right now that we definitely need to talk about. There's a whole slew of new Nintendo leaks that I definitely want to cover because there's some super interesting stuff in these leaks. But first, I want to draw attention to a major problem that Pokemon Unite for the Nintendo Switch has that definitely needs to be addressed, and people need to be aware of this. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, be sure to like and share the video. Without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. And like I said, we're starting things out with Pokemon Unite, which is a free-to-play MOBA game that just released on the Nintendo Switch and will be releasing very soon for mobile devices as well. Now, as you probably are well aware if you've watched this channel for any stretch of time, I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan in the world. I completely forgot about Pokemon Unite actually being a thing, and I have zero interest, maybe even possibly negative interest in playing this game. But I started seeing a lot of things online about the problems with Pokemon Unite, and once I started to read about it, I was like, damn, you know, this is actually a very big deal that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, but people need to be aware of it. Because like with a lot of free-to-play games, it does seem like there is a pay-to-win mechanic in Pokemon Unite that is absolutely destroying the game already if you are willing to spend real-world currency on this game. Now, TechRaptor.net did an excellent write-up on this that really helped for me to understand what was going on with this situation, so I'm going to be citing them a lot in this next thing. Make sure you guys check out the link in the description box down below to their website. Like I said, a very good write-up. They're definitely worthy of a click with this. But basically, there are three types of currency in Pokemon Unite. There is Eos coins, which are coins you earn by playing the game, but they are capped at 2,100 per week from the battles that you do in the game. There are Eos tickets, which is a currency that you basically earn through in-game events, and then there are Eos gems, which is a different currency that you can only get by spending money. Now, 2,100 currency per week for the Eos coins sounds like a decent thing, but once you start to look at the things that you can actually buy in the game, you start to see a major problem with this. So for instance, TechRadar said that Gengar is 10,000 Eos coins, meaning that it would take you about 5 weeks at maximum playing to unlock him, since you can only get 2,100 Eos coins a week. Or you could use 575 Eos gems and get him now in the game. So now we're talking about introducing Pokemon that nobody should really have unless they play this game religiously every week for 5 weeks. Now they're able to purchase these Pokemon with real world money and not have to go by doing the whole grinding system within the game. And the bigger issue seems to be items within the game as well, because items are basically only purchasable with the Eos tickets, and you can only get Eos tickets, like I said, through the in-game events. However, you can take your Eos gems that you bought with your real world money and turn them into Eos tickets, and then be able to purchase these items that, once again, you have no business having unless you actually spend real world money. So essentially what's going to happen is some little kid is going to get a hold of his parents' credit card, because let's be realistic, Pokemon Unite is probably for a younger audience, and some kid is going to get his parents' credit card, rack up a bunch of charges, and then they will have all these Eos gems, they'll have all the top tier Pokemon already unlocked, and all the items that can do a bunch of damage and different things for this game. And the whole ecosystem of the game is going to be ruined before it even really got started. It reminds me a lot of NBA Playgrounds 2 on the Nintendo Switch, which also had a system where you could unlock different basketball players with different stats, but like people were already utilizing the best players available in the game on the first day, and I was kind of like, what the hell's going on here? And when I looked into it, you could actually use currency, real world currency, to buy these players and buy additional player packs in order to get better players in the game. And it definitely impacted the game, and it really made the online unplayable for me since day one, because so many people were taking advantage of it. And considering that the NBA Playgrounds game is probably a bit smaller than Pokemon Unite, you know, a lot of people like Pokemon Unite, I can see this being a horrible thing for the game. Now, like I said, I have absolutely no interest in this game, so it doesn't affect me, but I feel like a lot of you guys might have had interest in this game and wanted to check it out since it was a free-to-play game. But it looks like you're not going to get too far in this MOBA experience if you are not willing to spend a lot of real-world money. I hope Nintendo and the Pokemon Company adjust this somehow, but as it stands, this is a very predatory game, and unless you're a die-hard Pokemon fan, I would probably skip out on it. But obviously the more interesting information has to do with these Nintendo leaks that have just came out and been discovered. I know Spawnwave talked about it yesterday on his channel. I'm not sure what topics he covered because, well, I didn't watch his video yet. Sorry, Spawn, I love you, but I don't want to subconsciously steal ideas from you. But there's a ton of new information that has come out from these leaks that were originally done, I believe, last year. We got some basic information, but now the floodgates have opened up, and there's a ton of interesting stuff I want to talk about. Now, before we get into the leaks themselves, I do want to say one thing. These leaks leaks were gotten by nefarious means. This information was essentially stolen from Nintendo. Do not steal, kids. It is not a good look, but since there's really sort of no victim in this besides Nintendo's secrets getting out there about canceled games and prototypes and stuff like that, I feel like it is worth talking about. But if you're very against these leaks, I understand why you wouldn't want to watch this part. But we're going to start things off with the Wiimote leak, because I think this is absolutely fascinating. Now, I've been playing with my Wii a lot lately. Come on, Nintendo, you could have named it something different, but I have been playing with my Nintendo Wii a lot lately. I've been playing games on there. Obviously, I did a video about a week and a half or so ago talking about some cheap Nintendo Wii games out there, and I really loved that system. I loved the system when it came out. I thought it had a great library of games, and I still do. And of course, the Nintendo Wii controller was the real interesting thing about that system. Well, some prototype images of concepts for the Nintendo Wii controller have now been revealed, and they're very interesting. So I'm going to put this picture up on the screen now, and you can see essentially different button layouts for the Nintendo Wii's controller. There's 5 different images here. You know, the first image looks pretty standard, pretty much like what we got, except, you know, the B button ended up getting switched around. You can see there's L and R next to a B that are very small, L and R that are sort of under a B that are very small. But I think the final 2 concepts are the really interesting ones, sort of that weird directional pad surrounding the A. Now, I don't think that would have worked very well because you would have had to do a lot of weird stuff. I think the standard D-pad up top works a bit better, but I like the 5th image, you know, that sort of dial thing. Like, would that have worked with like a touch sensitive thing where you touch any part of that dial and it essentially is registering with your finger or something like that? It's a very unique looking controller, and I would have loved to have seen a controller like that come out. Now, how practical it would have been, that really remains to be seen with this whole situation, because I could see, you know, a lot of hand cramps and a lot of questionable things like how the hell do you actually control your games. But there was a D-pad down at the bottom, so I guess you could put the controller sideways. I don't know, there's a lot of interesting things you could do with that. Of course, the A and B are on the front and the C is on the back. A very interesting controller, you know, a unique controller, and something that I would have liked to have seen come to fruition. But the other part of the leak that I definitely want to talk about are the canceled games, or games that were at least an idea that were going to be coming to the Nintendo Wii but never came to fruition. Now, one of these games we actually did end up seeing in some way, shape, or form, but it did not release. So the first game we're going to talk about is Project Hammer. Now, this game was actually listed as Hammerman, and they were aiming to create a Dynasty Warriors type game that will sell in North America with this game. And I think that's very interesting because Project Hammer from the get-go definitely looked like a very Western game, a game that you wouldn't necessarily expect Nintendo to sort of create, but here they were creating this game that definitely had, you know, that Western view to it, you know, the dark color palette, which was very popular at that time with systems like the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, whereas the Nintendo Wii had very bright and colorful stuff. This game definitely had a much darker tone. Of course, he swung that massive hammer around, so I could definitely see the Dynasty Warriors comparisons with this game, and that's sort of the direction that they wanted to go into. And I think it's interesting that we ended up getting games like Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors down the road. There was a game called Knights Wars that was done by Kuju that was a fantasy-based strategy game with Battalion Wars assets. So that's kind of strange. Battalion Wars, of course, was a game that released on the GameCube. The sequel released on the Nintendo Wii, and they were essentially, you know, real-time strategy games that were like Advance Wars, except you could actually take control over your units and shoot people and stuff like that. A very interesting concept, a game that I absolutely adore. I think Battalion Wars needs to come back for the Nintendo Switch. Maybe if Advance Wars does well, they'll revisit this, but I think that would have been a pretty interesting thing. Something else that was interesting was DDR Mario 2 on the Nintendo Wii. This was going to be a game that was developed by Konami, and I have a confession. I love DDR Mario on the GameCube. Like, I don't do DDR Mario. There's actually a video of me playing this game online. Good luck finding it, but there is a video of me playing this game online with like skits and stuff. It's a terrible freaking video, like most of my videos are, but I would have loved this. You know, DDR Mario was actually really fun, just going throughout different portions of the Mushroom Kingdom, coming into interactions with different characters and stuff like that. It was ridiculous fun, but it was definitely fun. Sphere was an unreleased N-Space game that was also mentioned in here. It was going to have female spy infiltration action, Metal Gear-like switching between multiple remote cameras. This sounds awesome! Now, of course, N-Space did games like Geist and, of course, Metroid Prime Hunters, which I loved both of those games. Some people didn't like Geist, but I think the core concept of Geist was very interesting. So it sounds like they kind of maybe used the Geist engine for this, with the whole ability to, you know, camera switching and whatnot. Like in Geist, you could be a spirit and basically possess different things on there. I could sort of see that playing into this game's engine, but like a female spy spy infiltration game was something that you didn't see on the Wii, and for this to be a first-party Nintendo game, once again, that's definitely pandering to a Western audience more so than you normally see with Nintendo games. I would absolutely die to see some of the concept art for this, or, you know, even some early gameplay prototype footage. Of course, N-Space no longer exists. I definitely miss them as a company, but I think this could have been really cool. A Metroid game developed by Intelligent Systems was supposed to release sometime after Metroid Prime. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, Intelligent Systems? Because when I think of Intelligent Systems, I think of games like Fire Emblem, I think of games like Advance Wars, but Intelligent Systems actually developed Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo, which many consider to be, well, the best 2D Metroid game of all time. Maybe Metroid Dread will be able to knock it off its perch, maybe not, but that game is of course revered to be one of the greatest games of all time. So seeing Intelligent Systems work on a 2D Metroid, I think could have been absolutely awesome. Of course, we sort of did get a 2D Metroid with, of course, Metroid Other M from Koei Tecmo, a severely underrated game. If you've never played it before, I really think you should check it out if you own a Nintendo Wii or have the ability to play Wii games. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's a really fun game, especially once you understand the controls and understand how everything works. It's just a game that was needlessly crashed and crapped on by internet critics, and I will always stand for Metroid Other M. And the final game is, of course, the massive one, the big one, the one that could have, I don't know, been a really cool game if it had come out. And this was a game called Project X by Retro Studios, an action game featuring Sheik from Ocarina of Time. And it's like, wow, like you could have done a lot with that game. Like just thinking about it, absolutely crazy how cool that game could have been. I think it could have been a game kind of like Project Hammer, where they wanted that Dynasty Warriors feeling. Obviously, you were able to play as Sheik in Hyrule Warriors, so you could kind of get a feel for it, but Sheik is like a stealthy sort of character, or you could go the action route with Sheik. Like there's so many different avenues you could have gone with this game. And of course, Retro Studios is a great studio, but I do sort of question one thing with this. When you look at Retro Studios, like how many canceled projects have they had? Because really, when you look at it, they've had a lot of canceled projects. Retro Studios hasn't made a new game since 2014 with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Nintendo Wii U. Yes, I know the game released on the Nintendo Switch, but they added in Funky Kong. They didn't really change anything with the game. Let's be realistic. So it's like, what is up with Retro Studios? You know, is there a problem at Retro Studios where they have so many projects that end up getting canned, or is Nintendo just overbearing with some of these projects? Of course, Retro Studios is working on Metroid Prime 4 now, so it'll be very interesting to see how that game comes out. But an action game starring Sheik, I think would have just been so kick-ass, man. You could have gone in so many different directions with it. You could have done so much stuff in terms of gameplay with it as well. And it's a damn shame that we're never going to see this game actually come to fruition, because I think it could have been something special. Now, there is other stuff involved with these Nintendo leaks. I'm sure Spawnwave talked about it yesterday, so check out his video from yesterday on his channel on it. But this was just the stuff that I found interesting because it's the stuff I wanted to talk about. Alrighty, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to let me know what you think of everything in the comment section down below. Will you be checking out Pokemon Unite, or does this story absolutely disgust you? And what do you think about these canceled Wii stuff that's coming out from this Nintendo leak? Because I still think there's a lot more stuff that hasn't come out from this Nintendo leak. They're sort of drip feeding this stuff. And I mean, once we get into like Wii U stuff potentially, I think that could be really cool. And maybe even some early prototype Nintendo Switch stuff. And as always, folks, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.